Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is March 13th, 2021, and I am your co-host, Thefatwizard, joined today by...
Alamaxia.
And Lobos.
Today, we're taking a look at Full Throttle. And this was released in North America, April 30th of 1995. And I think it's widely renowned as one of the highlights of the LucasArts point-and-click adventure games. I think it's one of my top two, maybe trumped a little bit by Grim Fandango, but love to hear both what you, Alamaxia, and Lobos think of the game. So, at a high level, let's start with Lobos. Tell me about it. What did you think about this?
I enjoyed it. There was, as usual with these point-and-click adventures, there were like one or two parts where I was like, but that's kind of expected at this point. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was brief, compared to newer games, but I kind of liked that too. It didn't overstay its welcome, and it did everything it wanted to do.
Yeah, it's very homely. It's for me. This is like the comfort food of adventure games. It's like you want a quick little stint. I've beaten it many times, so you do it in about 2 hours. I think Lobos, you probably did it in a little over 4 hours.
Yeah, something like
that. Yeah, without having the solutions in your head. Alamaxia, how'd you do on this one?
I clocked in right at 4 hours, and with this being I believe it was my first LucasArts point and click. This was so much fun. This is so much fun. I didn't realize I was going to effectively be playing. I was like playing a movie. This in its own right could have been a movie, and I got to play the main character, and it was so fun.
Oh yeah, Ben. Yeah, the main character, the leader of the biker gang, the Polecats. Ben. Anyone know his last name? A little point of trivia there.
Throttle, right?
Throttle. Yeah, I don't know if they mentioned that in the game, but it is canonical last name there.
Yeah.
So, who wants to walk us through kind of what we're seeing? We've started up the game, and you start with a little cut scene here. Alamaxi, why don't you walk us through the players that are talking here?
Yeah, so what we have going on here is we have Nestor and Bolos up in the front seat. Nestor is the skinnier guy.
Bunch of goons, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the goons. They're the thugs for hire. Nestor actually found out he's voiced by the same guy that did Brain from Pinky and the Brain. Thought he was very familiar. Yep. But then we also have Malcolm Corley, who is the CEO of Corley Motorcycles, or Corley Motors, and Rip Burger, who is Corley's vice president. Rip Burger is...
And he's also voiced by someone famous too, right?
Mark Hamill.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, God, such a good job there.
Yeah, Mark Hamill does several voices in this, Rip Burger being one of them, and Rip Burger being your main antagonist in this, because Rip Burger is... early on, you learn he's not really a great guy. Malcolm Corley, him and Rip Burger talking in the back seat, and Corley mentions, Rip Burger, I never liked you, but you had good business instinct. So that really set the tone for who Rip Burger really is. Yeah. And so they end up at the bar here, and Malcolm Corley is trying to get the Polecats to join him on a ride to the annual shareholders meeting for the Corley Motors. But Ben basically says the Polecats aren't for hire, and ends up getting taken out back by Rip Burger, and they have a few words and exchange a plank to the back of a head to Ben, and he gets tossed in the dumpster while everyone else just gets out of there, and Polecats think that they're hired on.
Yeah, they say that they tell the other Polecats that Ben went up ahead to scout the area, I believe. And so they're like, oh, yeah, we'll go.
Yeah.
And then you wake up, and you start the game, and you're in the dumpster. And how do you get out of the dumpster there, Lobos?
I forget exactly.
Just punch it, right?
You just punch it. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Punch.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. So the interactions in this game, if I recall correctly, you click and hold, and it pulls up a little dialogue.
Which by the way, is one of those innovative things. Back in the LucasArts early days, it was the verb, noun type stuff where you'd have everything at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know that this is one of the, if this is the first one, but it was one of the more popular ones where it changed it to more of a radial menu.
Yeah, radial menu. And there's fewer options, but they because, you basically have pick up, look at, kick,
and then taste,
and
or
taste,
put your mouth on.
Of course, taste. And but they do a good job of giving different answers for all those things that you're trying to interact with.
Yeah, the line I always hear is, "I'm not putting my lips on that."
I'm not putting my lips on that.
There's a lot of things to interact with too. Here in the bar, I was clicking around and trying to find all the different things I could interact with and just find out all the fun stuff that was happening. And one of the pictures, I think Ben walks up and he's like, "What's this blob?" And the bartender goes, "That's my baby picture."
Yeah, so the bartender's a little bit bigger of a guy, and we're kind of manhandling him right now. He's got some information about where his so Ben is trying to find out, like, hey, where'd the polecats go? Where's the keys to my bike?
Oh yeah.
And so this bartender's got this big like a bowl, what do you call it, like a nose ring that you put on a bowl. And so he just takes it with both his fingers and slams it down on the bar. And I think that's a really cool way to kind of set up Ben's character, because the bartender is he's much bigger than Ben, but Ben's like, no, Ben's the tough guy here, and I think it's a lot of fun, especially coming from some of the other adventure games that LucasArts did. You think about Monkey Island, Sam and Max, kind of like some real goofy characters, but Ben was like, he was like the cool guy, right? He's the type of guy that would like shove nerds into lockers in high school or whatnot. But you get your keys. That's your first objective, really, is to get the keys to the bike. And you're driving down the old desert road here, and I just love this part because he pops a wheelie, and the bolts go on his wheel, and he loses his wheel, and so he's like mid wheelie, and he's like, I've got to hold this wheelie for I don't know how long, and he's trying to hold it over. And
I love how you can see him gradually losing confidence.
Yeah, his expression tells everything. It's just like,
yeah. And eventually, you kind of lose the strength to hold the bike up, and the forks come down and just grind on that pavement, and he kind of passes out. And who do we have here? One of the main characters that will be helping out Ben here is Miranda, is who finds. Well, she kind of helps Ben out, but not so much, right? She kind of she's like a photographer that's in it for the scoop,
right?
And so she's just kind of there taking pictures, and I'm not exactly sure. Is Miranda bring Ben to Marine?
Yeah.
Or how does he eventually get to Marine?
I think Miranda brings him there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's I believe it's for because she's there taking pictures, and then he kind of passes out again, and then you wake up there in Maureen's place.
Right. And you see Miranda right outside.
That's true. Yeah. We'll see her in a little bit, and she'll. We'll try to get a ride from her to the city, and of course, she will claim she doesn't have a car. So Maureen is a really cool character. She is a mechanic. And she's like, hey, I can fix up your bike here, no problem, but I'm going to need a couple things. You're going to need some new gas. You're going to need some forks for the bike. And what is the last thing? Does anyone remember?
It's a hose?
No, it was
you
gas,
do need a hose.
And her welding torch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And this is cool because this is what when you have a great adventure game, you have multiple different ways to progress, and that's what this game does really well, where you can kind of get stuck going down one route and then go, I'm going to go try to go to this other area and still make some progress. So you need like basically 3 different parallel you can't solve them all at the same time or in any order. You kind of have to weave them in and out based on items you get in one area goes to the other. But yeah, you can kind of go to the 3 different areas you need to, and do a little light puzzle solving there. And I think it was a lot of fun to do that. I love that format. It's I don't want to say open world, but it does feel like you this is a world that you can explore.
I never got the sense that, like, you know, oh, I got to go back here, and then, oh, no, I got to go back over there. Like, it was kind of like a one-time backtrack sort of thing in order to make that progress. You visit all the locations you can, and in doing that, you get things, and you're like, this will be for that in that other spot. And then it's more gratifying that way, I think.
And traveling between locations is pretty easy, too, because you have, like, the little immediate area that you can point and click around in when you're kind of zoomed in on a house or something, but you walk away from that, and then you get the much larger view area, and Ben is little tiny, and he runs 100 miles an hour across the
like an
screen to get to
overworld,
the other
right?
part.
Yeah. It's like a little mini overworld. This is cool.
Now, I did want to comment real quick here. By the way, if you guys look up, if you want to take a look up here, right up there, we actually have a new TV, which a lot of the money we've been getting here has helped us afford the new TV. So it's a lot bigger. It looks the same. It looks the same, but it's just bigger. Nice. And so, I wanted to treat you guys to something special here.
Well,
so, absolutely. I hope you enjoy
for those
it.
pixels. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did want to talk to you about the game we're playing. That we're watching. This is the original Full Throttle, so this was on DOS. They did release an updated version with widescreen support, and what they did is they did a fantastic job actually taking the original 3x4 scenes and extending the artwork actually to 16:9. So they didn't just stretch it; they actually added artwork, which I think was really cool. And I think both of you played the remake, right, guys?
Yeah, I did.
I much preferred the art of the original.
Really? Okay. All right.
I felt
I liked them both, and I actively, because the remaster allows this, you can swap between the original art and audio as well, and then kind of back and forth between the new ones whenever you want. So at various points, I would be like, how does this look in the original game in 4x3, and look at it that way. It was a lot of fun.
Now, don't let me forget, because there is one very important puzzle that the actual 16:9 kind of spoils. It's near the very, very end of the game when you were on the cargo ship. So please remind me to talk about this if I forget. All right, so Alamaxia, I'm calling you here. We are entering a little trailer home.
Yeah.
And this guy seemingly has the welder. Why don't you talk us a little bit about how we got in here?
So after we talked with Maureen, she told us everything she needs. We come across this trailer, and this is Todd's trailer. Todd is the local junkyard guy, and he also apparently has a bit of a project going on in his basement.
Projects.
Yeah, smart projects. After you knock on his door a couple of times, he comes up and he's like, hey, go away. So you do like you did at the bar. You fix this door with your foot. You kick it in, and then you end up knocking him backwards. And explore around his trailer a little bit. You can open up a few spots in there. I found, because I really liked finding those things to click on, found the refrigerator and the cabinet pretty quickly. The refrigerator had a slab of meat, and the cabinet had a lockpick in it. So you're like, what are these for? They don't really have any use here. But if you walk around in the room enough, you find an elevator that takes you downstairs under the trailer, and you find Maureen's welding torch down there. And all those wonderful, weird, strange art projects.
And I think the moment you pick that up, you get instantly teleported to Maureen, and Ben says, "Here's your torch." So you might not have got to. There's nothing else down there to really get, but if you didn't explore everything, you'd have to go back there and look at everything. So after that, I head on over to the water tower, because the water tower has a... Sorry, it's not a water tower. It's like a gasoline tower, but it looks like a water tower.
Yeah.
And there is a padlock there. So, all right, cool. We got a lockpick. Let's go ahead and open that padlock up with the lockpick. And the minute that you start climbing up on the gas tower, they have some cops that are in this hovercraft vehicle thing. And they are alerted to your presence. And so they chase you off. And so your task is, we need to figure out how to get gasoline without alerting the cops, right? Or do we? Lobos, you want to talk about how we get the gas here ultimately?
Let's see if I remember correctly. Well, so you there's a little spot you can move around for a bit after you set off the alarms, and if you play around and walk around a bit, you can notice that there's a hiding spot in the back.
Yeah.
So you go hide.
I do want to note that it's not like you click on an item and it says hide behind here. You actually just kind of have to move your character. So a little bit wonky, but
no, I mean I got it pretty quickly because it's something that obscures your character. You can actually walk behind it and see he actually goes behind it. So I was like, all right, I'll go try and go wait here. And sure enough, instead of them chasing you out, they're like, where is he? And then they land to come check it out. And then I think they just leave their hovercraft behind.
Hovercraft there, yeah.
And then you can use the hose,
the gas,
to siphon out gas from their vehicle.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. It's almost like a bait and switch on the puzzle because you're thinking, I need to somehow get gasoline out of this tower. And that's not it at all. You basically get gasoline out from the cops that land next to the tower. Hey, doesn't matter how you get the gas. The fact is we got the gas. And we now have 2 out of the 3 items to power our bike.
I really liked that they had you use your mouth on the hose because it was one of the few points in the game where actually using the mouth action was needed. But it took me a couple times to figure that one out because I was like, attach the hose to the gas can or do something. But to take a step back, this was one of the couple of points in the game I actually had to look up because I did not, I could not find out. I didn't realize you could walk behind that little thing over there. I kept triggering the alarm, and I got through all of the different dialogues from the cops, and then I was like, well, maybe I can just trigger it and run away, and they think it was a false alarm. Well, I did have to do that, but I wasn't running to the right spot.
Yep, I think I remember playing this when I was much younger, and I do remember getting stuck there, not realizing that I could actually walk behind there. And the last place we need to go to is Todd's Junkyard. So the actual junkyard as opposed to his house that we stole the welding torch before. And now this one is a little tricky because there is a grate that has has got like a little chain. You can pull on the chain, and the grate comes open. And so you're like, great, I'm going to go walk into the junkyard. And, of course, not having that chain taut makes the door go down. So you're like, how do I keep the door open if I'm not pulling on the chain?
Yeah, they do another switcheroo where you're like, I need to keep the gate open. Yeah. But in actuality, what ends up being is you just use the padlock from the other gate, to keep it closed, which gives the chain, something to anchor on, and then you climb up there, which is like, what? Okay, sure.
And I think it plays like a little bit of a spy music when it does when you go there, right? It's like do 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 do. So we're in the junkyard now, and there's a very angry looking dog here that's guarding. I love it when you first meet the dog. He's buried under parts, and you just see the parts move, and all of a sudden his head explodes out of here, and he's just like, there's just slobber going everywhere, and this dog is not happy. But that meat we found earlier is going to help. I sort of feel bad about what we're going to do here. So we threw the meat inside of a car, and so the dog jumps in the car, and the whole car is like shaking. So he's enjoying a nice feast over there. And then we go over to, by the way, this is also kind of hard to see. You go back to where you first entered the junkyard, and you have to kind of go work your way around these very narrow ledgeways. Did anyone else have issues realizing that this was a place you could go to up to the magnetic crane, or did you guys find that pretty quickly?
It took me a few tries because I kept trying to go to different locations, and I even saw it up there, and I was like, man, if I could just get up to that tower, but how could I? And then at some point I backtracked, and I was like, okay. Yeah,
I think it's in the game. It's sort of the lighting. It's a little dark there, and it doesn't look like a path. It looks like just part of the scenery. When you think about adventure games, they typically make the things you need to interact with pop out of the scene a little bit more, but this almost blends into the background. But in any case, we got up there, we took that magnetic crane, and we now lifted that angry junkyard dog into the air, and so he can't chase us anymore, and then we're free to, take the forks that we need for the bike back to Marine, no problem.
So with that dog, that actually took me a little bit because every time I tried to put the meat on a car, he was like, well, the dog's just going to eat the meat and then get me. That's not going to help. So I tried to stack the cars to make a wall at one point, and I also tried to drop the cars on the dog several times, and that didn't work. It took me a little bit to figure that one out, but that that dog got me many times. That was where I learned how to skip the cutscenes by hitting backspace.
Yeah, same. I was able to just run through. I was like, okay, you can fast forward it. Phew. That music would start playing, and you're like, oh, Jesus. Yep.
Man, I can't believe you tried to drop a car on that poor dog.
I kind of tried that too. I was like, I mean, what is he going to do? You got to get rid of the dog, all right? You got objectives to meet.
I love this scene right here. So Maureen just souped up Ben's bike, and he rode off. Flames were all behind him. He set some stuff on fire. And there's just this scene of Maureen just gives us this like squint, like, I'm going to kill you. And just this rope on fire falls off behind her. Probably one of my highlights of the whole game right there was that scene for me.
So what's interesting about this is we're kind of a third of the way through the game already. I like to think that there's kind of three main stages. There's this stage, there's the Poyahoga Gorge stage, and then there's the final stage where you have to break into the stockholders meeting there. So, it's just comfort food. Every time I finish the first one, I almost feel like I've beaten all the game I really need to. Like, I enjoy the second 2/3 of the game, but the first third of the game I always felt was just so strong compared to the rest. But now we see a very important plot point. Who wants to walk us through what is going on? Oh, I got to close my eyes. No. Poor Malcolm.
Yeah, at this point, they take a pit stop while they're headed back to their headquarters, and while Corley's taking a bathroom break, Rip comes up from behind and takes him out with the intent of basically inheriting Corley Motors and spinning it his way.
Yeah, and it's kind of worth noting a little bit about what Corley Motors is. They're the last great motorcycle manufacturing company, and it's clear that is not how the other people, Ritberger, see this as the most profitable way to grow the company. They basically want to change it to a minivan making company because that's where all the money is. And so,
right, they predict that too. I think some of his members are like, "Oh man, they're going to turn it all into minivans," and then later he's got like a brochure and it's like, "Oh, look at all these great minivans!" Like, and you're like, "No."
And so Malcolm Corley, who is the owner and CEO, I think he's the owner. He's at least the CEO of Corley Motors. He is basically was like the last. He's like the old guard, right? And it's cool the connection he has with Ben because they are very different in terms of appearance. Ben is kind of this rugged guy. He's always out on the road drinking, and he's got his leather jacket. And then you've got Corley, which he's a businessman. You see him, but at heart they're the same people. And I think that connection's really cool. So next up, we got a couple more bombshells dropped on us. Number one, we found out that Maureen is actually Malcolm Corley's daughter. So that would be Maureen Maureen Corley, the woman that just helped us out. And the other plot point there, or the note, is Malcolm used to call her the Diaper Dynamo. So we'll have to remember that nickname quite a bit later.
Yeah.
So Lobos, I want you to walk. I think the important thing I want you to talk about is the little mini game here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
You walk back into the bar as you're heading, trying to catch up with Corley and company. And I don't remember his name.
And why? Well, so the reason why we need to go back to the bar is there's a roadblock preventing Ben from going through there. So he basically needs some sort of ride. So you go back to the bar to get a ride, but you meet this dude and walk us through what this guy's doing.
Yeah, he's playing the game with a knife on a
five-finger fillet, right?
5-finger fillet, that's it. And he's messing up constantly. He's like, "Oh shit, my hand," and he's just doing it there. And you can talk to him enough and ask him to like show him how to do it right, and it actually will do a close up of your hand, and you can like click, and you're supposed to click in between your fingers, but you can also click directly on your fingers and just stab yourself a whole bunch, which I did.
It's so good.
Yeah.
What?
I did both ways.
You have to talk to him. You have to say, "Let me show you how to do that," and he's like, "Not gonna happen." And you have to say
do
it
it like 10 times.
10 times. Yeah. And finally, he'll be like, "Fine." And so I think we're coming up on it real close here.
Yeah, he's like, if it'll shut you up, I'll let you do it.
Yeah. One of the other things I really like about this bar is there's a TV with a news guy, a news anchor, and he's like, Malcolm has been found brutally murdered, and like his face just like, gets really really excited whenever he says says like brutally murdered, and it's just like really emphasizes those words there. It's great. So here we got
the
our
stabbing.
Yeah, I'm stabbing poor Ben's hand, and it's cool because every place you not every place, but there's probably like 10 places. If you stab him, he'll get little wounds on his hand in various locations. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to go talk to Miranda. Alamaxia, do you remember what we're gonna do here?
Yeah, we just kind of walk around back the bar. It's the same place that Ben woke up after he was knocked out. Well, Miranda got thrown in the same dumpster. And Ben's talking to her, and she's like, those thugs took my camera. Track the guy to Melonweed, and Ben's like, okay, fine. And she doesn't want to go there because she's afraid she's going to get killed. She's like, go get my editor. Go get my editor. He's going to help out. Here's a fake ID. Get through the roadblock. So,
and I love this. She takes out her fake IDs, and it's just like a roll, like 20 of them there. It's like, oh, jeez. And just everything. I love the character development in this game. Like, this character is such a sleaze. Miranda's like taking photos of you while you're down. She's got all these fake IDs. So many characters here just have a lot of I guess character, and I think the thing is there's just not a ton of main characters. There's probably if we ignore Bolus and Nestor, that they're just kind of like paper bags, right? There's not a lot to them. There's really only about like 4 or 5 characters that you really get to know in this game.
True.
But yeah, again, because it's kind of a short game, I think that's the perfect amount of characters.
Yeah, I feel like the characters that they did have in here were developed to the point where I felt like they had individual personalities and individual characters, rather than, I mean, if this is an RPG, you walk into a town, you have 500 NPCs, they all have the same personality.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so the 5-figure fillet buddy that you make here ends up being a trucker, and you bring him that fake ID that you get from Miranda, and you convince him because he's stopped because he can't go through the roadblock. But you give him the fake ID, and you're like, all right, this will let you through if you take me with you. So he stuffs you in the
engine compartment,
the engine compartment of all places. And then I think your bike's in the back. So you're like, all right.
Yeah. And you do get stopped by the blockade, and I think that they... Oh, yeah, the other thing that's important here is he says it smells like he has a fuel leak.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that actually comes up a little bit later here. But yeah, you get stopped by the police blockade, but he's questioned briefly and then kind of lets you move on. And then you end up in... This is the Melonweed, right? The mink ranch. Mm-hmm. Is this the actual name of this town, or is that the next one?
I'm not sure. I think it's the next.
Okay, maybe it is.
But this is on the way. Yeah,
it is. It's on the way to Melonweed. That's right. We stopped off at a little mink ranch here because that trucker kind of stole some of our bike parts. Right? He fixed his fuel line with our.
Oh yeah.
Our fuel line. So, oof, that's rough. Now, I think I remember, and I don't know if this has happened yet, but I do know at some point Maureen says that whenever she feels stressed out, she goes back to the mink ranch. Is that right? Does anyone remember something like that?
She says that like back whenever you not really first meet her, but whenever you do first meet her, there's a picture on the wall that if you look at it, you see it's a picture of her and her uncle, and she mentions that she used to spend some time at his ranch. And later on, whenever you go back there, he kind of looks at it again, and you hear her mention it in like a flashback audio that she goes there whenever she's like stressed and needs to get away.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
And so we have a oh yeah, that's right. So we just seemingly saw Marine take out of here, and so she just peels out. She's got a bike, and we're like, oh, we need to go catch up with her. I don't remember specifically why we are trying to catch up with Marine here. I think it's just to explain the situation about her father. But I'm a little fuzzy on that.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And she's riding down the old mine road here, and she uses her nitrous or whatever you want to call that to just go flying over the Cuyahoga Gorge, right? And Ben doesn't quite have the materials anymore, and so he's got there you go. That's your next thing is you need to soup up your bike to get over the Cuyahoga Gorge. Oh, by the way, here we go. This is the trucker who just stole our stuff.
Yep.
He's gonna get what's coming to him. By the way, did you see what was on his right arm, Lobos?
Wait. Well, there's wasn't there? Was it a Rebel insignia?
Yeah. It's a Rebel insignia.
LucasArts.
There's a couple of references. One of the other references to Star Wars is, I think Miranda, she says something like, "Help me, Ben, you're my only hope."
Oh yeah.
when she was giving you her ID. So okay, a little cheesy, but yeah, okay, whatever.
And
these
cavefish kind of remind me of Tusken Raiders too.
Yes,
sand
exactly.
People, so.
Yeah, so
a little similar
as we're hanging out on the old mine road, we're not quite to the old mine road, but we are still driving towards the Cuyahoga Gorge. There's like another biker gang, and they're really weird. They look like sand raiders, and they have these real low rider bikes. What do they call these? Where you kind of like lay down on the bike as opposed to sitting up.
Crotch rocket. And our boy the trucker, he kind of angers them a little bit, and they essentially blow up his semi truck over the bridge, the Cuyahoga Gorge Bridge, and now there's a huge gap between bridges, and we need to figure out how to clear that gap.
Mm-hmm. He also unlatches his trailer when he's trying to combat the cavefish, which ends up dropping all this fertilizer on the ground. It's really weird looking fertilizer, though, but
it's like
it comes into play later.
Fertilizer.
Yeah.
And so what you want to do there is you're going to want to... You have a wrench to loosen up some of the bolts on the wheels, and then you can actually push that trailer over, and that creates a huge cloud or a huge hazard of fertilizer in the middle of the road. And so who remembers what we want to do with that? We're doing it right now, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, you lure those the goons, the Corley goons.
Bolus and Nestor, who are driving like this hovercraft limo thing.
Oh, yeah, because you're looking for one of the parts, which if you go a bit further up the road, there's like a big sign that talks about, I forget the character's name, but basically the daredevil that jumps over the gorge.
It's basically Evil Knievel, right?
Yeah, basically Evil Knievel. And it kind of...
his name is like Ricky something? I think we'll find out here in a minute.
But it details, though,
the cavefish
in a very, like... Yeah, but it details in a very like hand-holdy way, like, here's exactly the parts that you might need to do this. And you're like, oh, okay, I need that sort of thing.
Yeah, because you go to the Cuyahoga Gorge, and we're right here now, and there's like a little informational sign, like a historical marker.
Yeah.
And it tells about this the daredevil that once cleared the gorge on a stunt. Let's see what his name is. It should be coming up here soon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it tells you you're going to need the hover lift and nitrous.
And a ramp.
And see what else we need here.
It said
and a ramp.
Oh yeah, ramp too.
Oh, the ramp, right? Yeah. Rick, yeah. So it was Ricky there. So okay, we got 3 more things to pick up, and we've already picked up the hovercraft thing because we basically stalled out that limo, and then you can you can pick up the hovercraft thing from the limo, and you basically just like put it on your bike. You're like, just slam it in there. It's good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's a video game.
He opens up the menu and hit equip.
What's the complication? So
Click
here's
and
something
drag.
I wanted to call out that was really interesting here. This game was made using the Scum Engine. It was LucasArts' proprietary adventure game engine, which was built to handle, a lot of just basic point and click and adventure game stuff. This whole sequence here has you riding around in almost like 3-dimensional space. So if you imagine, most of the game happens on a 2D plane, except for when you're actually riding on your bike, and there actually is sort of this 3-dimensional stuff you got. You're actually you see the terrain coming at you. And they actually used a different engine here called the Insane Engine, and the Insane Engine was used for Rebel Galaxy 2.
Oh.
And it was used to so it was Star Wars Rebel Assault 2: The Hidden Empire. And this is used mostly for full motion video. So I know that this caused a lot of issues for the artists in particular to try to like weave those two together, because Full Throttle was more of a cartoony look, whereas this one had more like a realistic FMV look. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to know that they used almost a different engine, or they integrated that Insane Engine somehow with this portion of the game here.
This was the first part in the game that kind of drove me up the wall. I was like,
especially
if you don't know what to do.
Why don't you talk about it? Yeah, let's
I'll talk about it.
So
well,
first of all, you meet with Father Torque, and he kind of gives you the lay of the land. All right, and then you take it from here, Lobos.
Well, essentially, you're just kind of driving in a circle on a road, and you have the option to kind of like take exits to get back on the highway, or take a turn, get back on the highway, and then from the highway you can take a couple of exits to get to various places. And what you're supposed to do is, at this point, you're in this gorge driving around, and you'll kind of randomly encounter particular like rival faction biker gangs, and you need to use specific weapons basically to take them out. Like the first guys you take out, you just kind of punch and knock them off their bike. And then you take their weapon, and it's a kind of rock, paper, scissors type thing. And I didn't end up noticing at first, but like I think you grab some fertilizer and you throw it in the eyes of the dudes that don't have goggles on. And I didn't make that connection immediately. So I was just like, I'm just trying everything on everybody, and whatever works. And they'll get knocked out if you're using the wrong weapons, basically. So it was a lot of just kind of trial and error.
The one nice thing, though, is once you defeat an opponent and take their weapon, they stop spawning. So it's basically you have to continue riding down the road, and then another enemy will pop up, but it won't cycle through ones you've already beaten. So that's kind of nice. Once you know what you need to do, you just you can do that. And the last thing, the whole reason you need to do that is you need to get the goggles.
Yeah, cavefish goggles.
The cavefish goggles to find their secret lair, and that secret lair has the ramp you need.
The ramp.
Also, I read that this game had a notorious cheat where you could hit just Shift and V, and you'd automatically win the combat.
What?
It would have been nice.
Nice. That would have been nice.
All right, so real quick, we've already finished the scene here, but real quick, does anyone remember how to actually, what weapon to use to knock off the cavefish on their bike?
You had to use a wooden plank.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a wooden plank. It's really weird, and
you also had to wait for them to
it's weird
sit up.
Because you have to sit. Yeah, because if they get knocked off their bike automatically explodes, or they hit a button to explode it, or something like that. So
yeah, they do.
Yeah, so many weapons will knock them off their bike, but only one weapon, maybe two. But I know only at least the plank will allow you to get the goggles there. Yeah. All right, so we are now in part 3 of the game. We successfully jumped the gorge, And what we're going to find here is that they have locked down the shareholders meeting. So we want to get into that shareholders meeting to face off against Ripburger, but they basically said there's not going to be a shareholders meeting because, well, the reason is they know that Ben is still on the loose, and they need to tie up those loose ends before they go ahead so he doesn't come and foil their plans. You guys remember the master plan that they have to get Ben out in the open? Actually, Ben and Marine.
They're going to lure them out.
They're going to what? Lure him out? How, though?
Lure him out with a destruction derby with the main prize being that wonderful bike that Maureen and her father worked on when she was very little.
That's right.
So nostalgia to bring them out.
Yeah. And they immediately
lure
catch
him out
on.
with the destruction derby.
Yeah. But yeah, they know it's bait. Well, but I mean, before that though, we need to figure out how to meet back up with Maureen, which was a thing with these bunnies.
We haven't got there yet. So the first thing you do is you go into a stadium, and this guy's great. He's like an announcer who's trying to get you to buy stuff. And
he's a
like,
peddler.
hey, he's a peddler. And he's like, hey, why don't you take this RC car for a spin? And I think actually what you want to do is actually you want to get a battery out of the bunny, right? Because this one's a little goofy, but there's that bunny is like an Energizer bunny. Is that correct?
I don't know.
That's not true. No, I think that comes into play later.
Bunny.
Yeah.
Right. The actual batteries are from was it the car?
The car runs out, and then I think
then
when you do this next part,
acquire a battery from a bunny.
Yeah, from a blown up bunny.
Right, that's how it is. Yeah, that's how it works. So you take a pit stop over into this kind of dark looking canyon, and it's full of landmines, and it's the Vultures' hideout. And I guess that Marine is the leader of the Vultures, although I don't think you know that.
You know that
you're
she's
still
with
trying to
the
find
Vultures because whenever you stop by the mink ranch, you look above her bed and she has that Vulture banner, and he's like, I didn't know she was with the Vultures.
Right. Yeah,
I will say, I was going to say this spot right here where the mines are, it took me a while to find this screen because when you first enter this area with the auditorium and all that, it kind of auto drives you past. In order to find it, you have to kind of backtrack a little bit, and there's like a break in the fence that you actually take down there. And so it took me a long time I was stuck here trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, it's another one of those where it's not obvious that there's another screen down here. And that's the worst feeling when it's not even a puzzle. You're just like, I just didn't know I could click there. So I feel bad here for this poor bunny.
Yeah.
He's going to be our minefield investigator, and it found a mine, and out of the bunny came a battery, and so we're going to use that now on the actual RC car, and I think that's going to allow us to actually drive the RC car, because the end goal here is we want to distract that peddler. Because we want the big box of bunnies, right? We don't want just one bunny. So if we can get his RC car to go past these turnstiles, which we just did, they're one-way turnstiles, so he's stuck. He's like, I'm going to have to go all the way through the factory to get it now. And now you can get your bunnies.
The bunny
crate
box.
Of bunnies.
Which is the most effective way to deal with a minefield is...
That's true.
Send bunnies across, let them...
I was going, no, this can't be. No. And then the music starts playing, and I just let all of them run at
what is it? Is it the Flight of the Valkyries? Is that the song? Oh, gosh. Yeah. And it's actually, you can run out of bunnies here, so you kind of have to... It's not a straight shot. The bunnies won't go in a straight shot. You kind of have to walk a little bit, put the bunny down... Walk a little bit, put the bunny down, and so you go through there and you make it to the Vultures, and you're held up by two individuals. You can't see their faces, and they have 4 bikes, and they tie your arms and your feet in 4, to each of the bikes, and they're pulling you.
Trying to draw and quarter them.
Drawn and quartered, which is brutal, and they're
gosh.
talking to, and you're like, stop! I didn't kill your father, because that's what she thinks, is that you murdered Corley, but
and this is
true.
one of the first of the 2 longer dialogue puzzles here. And one of the things I like about this is you can sort of taunt, you don't know it's Marine yet, but I'm going to say it's Marine just for the sake of discussion here. You can kind of taunt Marine and tell her all the things that you're going to do if she doesn't free you. Like, oh, I'm going to stick the polecats on you, and then they pull you more. And so there's a couple different dialogue options you have to do in sequence to actually figure out how to convince Marine that you're actually there to help her. And the first dialogue option you need to do is stop, or I'm going to call you names.
Yep.
And she's like, well, what name are you going to call me? And he's like, the Diaper Dynamo. And that's the name that, Malcolm called her father.
And only he would know, pretty much.
And only he would know, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who wants to talk about this old fun? So this is the second action sequence in the game, which is the Destruction Derby. Who wants to talk about how this one works?
It was painful to control this. So because this is a point and click, you don't really use your keyboard to control this car. You use left click to drive your car forward, and you move your mouse right and left to spin your car left and right. And
it's a top-down driving.
Yes, top-down driving. It was incredibly difficult to control, and this is the Destruction Derby, and your goal in this is to try to hit Maureen's car, because the plan is once Maureen and Ben's car hit head-on, they're going to explode. Maureen is going to eject out, and there's going to be a distraction. No one's going to see her because Ben's going to be running around in an asbestos suit on fire.
Oh no! Yeah.
So you get into the Destruction Derby, and Nestor and Bolos end up popping in, and they are preventing you from hitting Maureen. They're just blocking you from getting there. But you learn through just kind of driving around, there are some ramps, and if you leap off of a ramp and land on top of a car, it'll kind of stun them. So a few different ways you could actually win the Destruction Derby. I learned that you could use the ramp to jump down and land on top of Bolos and them. Or one thing that I did is I landed on one of the other cars, quickly pushed it over, and then used that as like a pick maneuver. So I baited Bolos and Nestor around, and I went around the car that I had placed, so they ran into that stalled out car.
That's cool.
Okay.
But after
I ultimately did what you did, Fatwiz, which is the stalled car you take over to there's a ramp on the far right side against the wall, and you can push that car over that ramp, and then ramp on top of and past that car, which gets you beyond where Nestor and them are guarding, and then that ends up working. But it was what you would expect for an action part in a point and click adventure, just like the motorcycle.
I will say that I did play this on the PS4, and I think they actually changed the controls so it actually is analog controls, which is a little nicer to control. But using your mouse isn't super great. So after that, the shareholder meeting can go on because they think that both Ben and Marine are dead. And so now you got to figure out how to break in. You're given a couple of clues. The first clue is that there's a bunch of bike parts, and you're told that there's like some sort of code you need to get, right? She knows that the code was on one of these bike parts, but she's not sure which one. I think it's just like a serial number on a bike.
Yeah.
And I think there's only 3 bike parts you can look at, and of the bike parts, only one of the bike parts actually has enough characters to actually fit in the allocated space when you're trying to enter the code. And then the other thing I really like here is she's talking about how there was a secret passage that she used to use as a kid, and she would stare at a line on the wall and kick that spot on the wall. And I thought that was really cool because when we get to the area she's talking about, you see that the line actually starts out high and kind of goes lower and lower throughout the screen. And you're like, well, okay, if she was 6 years old, she would be about yay height, which means that it's not Ben's eye level, but it's a 6-year-old child's eye level is where you need to stand. I thought that was a really creative way to tell you how to solve the puzzle without outright giving you that. Did either of you have any issues with that?
I don't think I didn't catch on to that in particular.
Okay, did you just randomly kick the wall all around?
No. It's kind of dark in the video we're watching here, but
it is, yeah.
I could see more clearly, and I was pretty sure that it was like this area that you're kicking at, and so I just kind of nudged over until it ended up working. I did kick some other spots that had kind of lines coming down, but I was pretty certain it was this spot. So yeah, you have to wait for these meters to line up, and then you kick. But it was the timing of it that I was doing wrong, I believe. Okay. Which your kick needed. Yeah,
I wasn't waiting long enough after the meters stopped.
Gotcha. And then, so when you kick that spot, a little secret passage opens up, and now we're in the Corley Motors headquarters. And, gosh, we're real close to the end of the game here. The first thing we got to do is open up the floor safe. And this is where we enter in that password that we got from one of the serial numbers. And I don't remember exactly what we get from this. But while we wait here, I want to talk a little bit about some of the voice actors here. I thought it was very interesting is this got a bunch of big names in the industry, relatively speaking. And this was at the very start of that sort of like interactive entertainment having actual fully voiced things. And so they're able to get a lot of Screen Actors Guild members for relatively cheap because, people were like, hey, this could be the next big thing. So they got, of course, they're talking about Mark Hamill. They got Roy Conrad, which does the voice of Ben. And I absolutely love his voice because it's tough, but it's also sort of warm, right? And you kind of feel like he's a good guy. You see, he's not like the anti-hero. He's
at heart, yeah.
Yeah. He's a nice guy that wants to do the right thing.
But Max Payne's voice.
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, Max.
No, hey, that was last month's episode. We can't talk about that anymore. Statute of limitations is up on Max. And so we're getting clips of Ripburger's speech to the shareholders, and he is basically saying, hey, our vision of the future is these minivans. And so we need to figure out a way to disgrace Ripburger here.
So I did want to mention, out of that, we use that code to get Corley's will, which I believe mentions that he wants to hand over the company to Maureen, as opposed to, Rip taking over Ripburger.
Alamaxia, what are we going to do to stop down this shareholder meeting?
Bug the lady that is managing the projector until she walks away long enough that you can make those pictures known. But this is one that I futzed around on for quite a bit and didn't really understand what I did correctly in the end to get it.
Oh, really?
I know there's a room next to her, because if you keep trying to walk in the room where she's in, she just calls security, and security comes and shoos you away. But there's a room next to her that has the projector controls. Go ahead, Lobos.
Oh, I did want to comment on the security guard, because I always like to do things until the dialogue loops. And in particular with the security guard, you'll call him, she'll call him out, and then he'll be like, there's nobody here. If you run away, you have to hide. And then next time, or after a couple times, he's like, is she flirting with me? And then he runs back, and then he comes out again. And he's like, maybe I should ask her out, and keeps going down this thought path. It's funny until eventually it starts looping, and I was like, okay, cool.
So the clue here is you can mess with the footage, and she'll come and fix it, but she'll say something like, "Well, at least they didn't burn the footage, or at least the footage didn't burn." And so what you need to do is there's two levers inside of the projector place. There's the brightness of the light and the speed of the film. And so you need to max out the brightness of the light while decreasing or minimizing the speed of the film, which creates a very, very hot temperature, which basically sets the film on fire. And then you can go in and replace that stuff and show the videotape that Miranda took, right? Yep. That shows the murder of Malcolm by Ripburger.
Which I don't think we actually mentioned earlier, but that was a thing. Miranda was like in the bushes when Ripburger sneaks up on Corley, and so she's got all these photos, and that's what you're putting on the reel instead of whatever Ripburger had planned.
Yeah, and so he's basically showing all this this incriminating evidence and dialogue about how he's going to take over the company and mess over Malcolm, and he's basically showing that to the shareholders, and he's does like a quick, he's trying to save face. He's like, Malcolm was crazy. He didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But Maureen comes in and she rightfully stakes her claim, which is cool. I think it's a cool little twist where you're not really you're the protagonist, but you're not like the main hero, right? You kind of like do your job and then you kind of fade off into the distance. We're not quite done yet, but I got the sense that it's like, all right, it's time for Maureen to take over.
Right, yeah.
This is where I thought the game actually ended, because I was like, oh yeah, we're just kind of riding off into the sunset. Oh, that's nice. And we're just going to have a nice conversation. Then semi.
And then semi. So yeah, you're riding your bicycle, your motorcycle down the road, and he's got this huge semi with like machine guns
on the front. Of course. This was wasn't this a vehicle that the Vultures had? I thought
not this one.
Oh no, not this one. You're right. That comes into play in a bit though.
And then, so you get rammed, and then you're hanging for dear life on the front of the vehicle. Oh, yeah, and then here we have the Vultures. They have this huge cargo plane, which is actually... So you have the bike. The bike gets rammed by a semi, and then the semi is about to get rammed by the cargo plane, which it's kind of like a small fish.
There's always a bigger fish.
Medium fish. Yeah, always a bigger fish there. By the way, here's something that's fun. Did you guys try to throw... So you start out in the fan belt, or near the fan belt of the semi. Did you guys try to shove the bunnies in there?
I did, and it just went poof.
I don't think I did.
Yeah. You can basically shove the bunnies in the fan belt, and bye-bye bunnies.
It's like a big meat grinder. Well,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But the way that I ended up doing it was here. If you're messing around on the front of the vehicle, Ripburger will try and reach out and like bash you with his cane, and then if you time it right, you have to time interacting with it and hitting the hand icon, and you'll grab it from him, and you can use that to stop the fan in the front of the engine.
Yep. And then you flip back to the back, and there's the fuel line. There's 4 fuel lines, and one of them you can loosen up there. Which is going to cause a bunch of fluids to leak out here. Yeah, that's a bad time for Ripburger here. And here we go. He gets distracted by Ben, kind of messing around behind there, and that gives the Vultures enough time to basically eat up that semi with the cargo plane. And here's the last big puzzle here. You're inside of this cargo plane, and the first thing you need to do is figure out how to get to the cockpit, right? And
as you're trying to
does
get
anyone
to the
remember
cockpit,
how to do that?
Well, you try to run across the room, and as you're trying to get to the cockpit, which there's a ladder over there, you start running, and then Ritburger starts firing at you from the semi.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really quite understand this part because he never hits, so you just kind of keep walking towards the ladder, keep clicking
I
at
just
it,
kept going
keep
too.
clicking at it, and then you
He's like,
eventually
oh,
make
well,
it
I
over.
can see you can't aim those machine guns. So as long as I don't stand in the fire, in
Right
the
in
line of
front of
fire, I'm good.
It's like a T-Rex. Just stand still, and it won't see you.
Now, here's one thing I think, unfortunately, I really dislike about the game because you have to go through. So we're up in the cockpit, and there's a bunch of different menu options, each with multiple branching sequences.
Yeah.
Plus, you only have a certain amount of time to do so or to figure out the right solution before you crash off the bridge. And there's really no indication of what the right solution is.
Yeah.
Did you guys have issues with this? I had to look this one up.
Oh, I got it pretty quickly because I was just kind of looping through them. I don't know if there was a more lenient timing on the later one, but I was able to go through pretty much all of them. I did have to, restart 2 or 3 times, but by that point, I was just looking for something, to stop the vehicle. And some of them were kind of misleading on purpose, but then other ones, like, I eventually got there.
Yeah, same.
And
I
I think
just
that
kind of iterated through the options and found it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the solution is raise gears, what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, because you're taxiing along on the freeway there, about to run off into the Poyohoga Gorge, and so by raising the landing gear, it just skids on the ground and stops right over the gorge. And the final area here we have is Ben is so Ritburger is hanging comically from like a little pipe on the semi, and
By his coat, yeah.
By his coat, and Ben is up there a little bit closer towards where you want to go and be safe. And it's just kind of climbing around, right? You don't want to, or I don't think you can save Ritburger. But he wants to make sure that if he's going down, you're going down too. So he's still shooting his gun at you.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is being a real jerk.
And then it's another console, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I think he's actually hanging by a machine gun, so you have to retract the machine guns, which means he's not able to hang around anymore. It's kind of a cold way to kill someone,
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's
there it
kind
goes.
of
There it
funny
goes,
if you fire the machine guns, there is a little cutscene where it shows the machine guns firing, and then Ritburger's like, nice, you fired it, great job.
Oh, and I think the last thing he holds on to and he pulls is a license plate that says Corley Motors, and the phrase there, he looks at it, it says, "Can't beat a Corley."
Wow.
Oh, how good is that, right?
Man. Brutal. Yeah. So
All right,
you
so
climb
here's
your
the
way
thing
back.
I was talking
Yeah.
about. This
Oh,
is,
yeah.
Okay, so in 16:9, you can clearly see. So what you do is you go back into the ship. And on 16:9, there's enough where you can clearly see that there's a bike on the left side of the screen. But in 3x4, that is hidden. And so you have to get into your bike, and then that allows you to get out of the airplane faster than it is falling down.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird thing, like where you're like walking around, and then if you step in the wrong spot,
Yep.
suddenly it's just like, the whole thing falls down, game over, try again, and you're like, but yeah, after some trial and error, you get through it.
Yeah, and it's only, at least on the 3x4, it's only when you move to the left side of the screen does the screen pan over. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I actually listened to the developer commentary on this, and that was intentional. They wanted you to have that moment of discovery where, like, oh, my bike! And so we've effectively beaten the game. We've got some cutscenes going on here. We have Father Torque and a bunch of other characters we met throughout the game, and members of our Polecat gang. They're giving Malcolm Corley a nice little funeral session here.
Yeah, and you even see like all the different gangs come in. It's like everyone comes together, and for like this one moment, no one's enemies.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this end of the game gets me every time. I love it so much because Ben and Maureen, they're sitting in the back of the limo together, and they're kind of like, well, like what now? And you think like maybe for a fleeting second, like there'll be some relationship here, right? Like maybe they'll be together, and they're kind of talking about what's next, and she gets a phone call, and immediately it's business, talking about how to run the business, and kind of she's super preoccupied, and Ben just kind of gets out and leaves. Yeah. That's such a cool ending because it's just like they have their different ways in life, right? And she keeps talking. She notices, but she keeps talking. She's got a business to run. Ben's got a gang to head off into the sunset with.
Yep. And it just really solidifies Ben's character and brings a complete full circle to who he was in the beginning, and he stays true to who he is in the end. He starts out, I'm not for hire, and in the end, this is just who I am.
Yep. And then it really seals the game if you wait till after the credits when out of nowhere, when you're looking at the sunset view, this top of this road hill, all the bunnies start marching. And I was just like,
I didn't wait that long. What?
No, you didn't wait.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure we have it here in the credits here, so we'll see it. But man, what a great game. It's criticized for being short and easy, and I think that's okay. It did something that other games of its time didn't do. A lot of the puzzles were very straightforward. There was a couple things that were a little asinine, but for the most part.
Yeah, it was great.
A little bit of trial and error can get
run.
Solve the issues there for you.
If I ever play a point-and-click adventure where something isn't like incredibly obtuse or like really annoying to control, then I won't believe that it's a true point-and-click adventure game, so. But if you skip ahead to 118 here, you'll see the bunny part, Alamaxia.
Yeah. Okay,
let me go. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh man, so good. Alamaxia, let's wrap it up. What do you think? Are you? Oh, by the way, I did want to say there was, for a brief fleeting moment, there were 2 sequels planned. Well, not like in succession, but there were 2 sequels that were tried to be in development. One was called Hell on Wheels, and the other, I don't remember. One was canceled pretty quickly. Another went so far as they had a trailer that they cut together and showed off at, I think, E3. It looks terrible. You should still watch it though. It's one of those where they took it and made it all 3D, but like bad 3D.
Okay.
And so it's
early
like, oh
3D.
man, here's Ben in early 3D. It's like, nope, I don't want to see that. Neither of these games were worked on by Tim Schafer, who was the one of the main designers, the main designer of Full Throttle here.
Yeah.
So geez, what a great game.
So Full Throttle there, I think I'm sold on LucasArts games. That was fun. Yeah. There was so much fun little comedy and dialogue in there that if you're someone that goes into games and you try to just skip through dialogue as quick as you can, you're missing out on the magic of this game. Just these quick little quips and phrases that were in there, and some of them were pretty tongue-in-cheek. There was a lot of innuendo in there. Maureen had a quote whenever you first meet her that I kind of made me chuckle a bit.
You remember what the quote was?
It's something along the lines of, I've been working on toast for so long, it's been nice to get my hands on your hog. And it's like, wow, okay. And she's a biker chick, so it's like really kind of, and this is, it's just stereotypes putting into there. It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
But there is, I feel like there were other just little, just the way they would phrase things that if you read into it a little bit, you went, okay.
Yeah. What about you, Lobos? What was your thought about it?
Yeah, I loved it.
You played like part of it before.
Yeah, I mean, I played it when I was a kid. I never beat it, probably because I got stuck somewhere. But I remember the game fondly. What I did play of it, and yeah, like I said before, short, sweet, not too long, not too short, and the writing is just it makes it what it is. And plus, it looks really good. And even like they did use some kind of like 3D stuff in this, but like it wasn't too much. And I think it worked really well in the game.
Well, one thing I do want to talk just real quick. I mentioned it early on, but the art style of the original versus the remaster. The original, I really feel like the art style came from that very 80s, very grungy art look. And it kind of reminded me, just thinking back to like the animation in something like Pink Floyd The Wall, where the colors aren't supposed to be smooth. The colors aren't supposed to be perfect. And I feel like whenever things went from the original to the remaster, everything just felt too smoothed over, too cartoonish. The rough edges weren't there, and it lost that magic that kind of drew me back into that time.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I like both art styles personally, but I can understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
Alamaxia, you said that you're into LucasArts games now. Have you played Grim Fandango?
I've not. I need to play them. I mean, I'm sold on them now. I need to play a lot more.
We'll have to do that one. I don't remember. Lobos, have you played?
Another one that I played a bit, never beat, and don't remember anything about. So that would be a good way to refresh my memory.
We'll have to. That's again. I think that one's better than Full Throttle, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We want to really thank everyone for listening to us here on the podcast or watching us on YouTube. It's been a pleasure covering Full Throttle. It's one of these games I've probably played, I don't know, maybe 10 times. Sounds about right there. So, yeah, hopefully everyone out there enjoyed, listening to the episode here. And then, of course, a big shout-out here to our new Patreon supporters. We actually got a new one. I think this is month number 5 in a row. So thank you so much, Mitt, for your Patreon support here.
Thank you.
Let's keep that train rolling. Let's keep those motorcycles going down that road here. The Patreon support is strong. Thank you so much, everyone. If you're interested in helping support the show, you like what you hear, you can get in for just $1. That's a pretty cheap date right there. You can head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Gaming Show, or you can just head on over to SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com. It's got all the links there that you'll ever need.
That's right. Ever.
So we drove around. We beat people over the head with the
yeah.
tire iron. We used like a 2x4 and a flail. I'm missing the firearms. What are we going to play next?
The firearms? Yeah. What if I told you could drive around while shooting people and hitting them with 2x4s and flails? All in the same game.
Whoa.
Okay, well, you can't do that, but it's kind of like that. This one's going to be great because it's going to be the first game that we're going to actually get to play all together because Serious Sam has a co-op mode there we're going to check out. And Serious Sam is a really great throwback to some of the old style shooters like Doom, right? And Duke Nukem 3D, where they just kind of focus on lots and lots of enemies. Tons of enemies. Not so much story, just lots of cool enemies, secrets, stuff like that. So it's going to be a great time. And so we're going to be checking that out in April. So stick around for that one. So sadly, we have reached the end credits of this episode, but we want to thank you all for listening to us on the podcast or watching us on YouTube.
And we release monthly, so be sure to follow and subscribe to us on iTunes, Google, or check us out at SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com, where you can listen to us on an embedded feed right there.
Just gotta hit that play button. Super easy.
If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear you. Shoot us an email at SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com or use the contact form on our website, SaturdayMorningGamingShow.com.
Or follow us on Twitter at SaturdayMGaming.
And, of course, we got a special shout-out to TechnoAxe for much of the music on this episode.
For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Alamaxia.
And I am Lobos.
And I'm the Fat Wizard. we'll see you in April with Serious Sam for the PC.